What's up, everybody? My name is Chris Angel. Welcome to Freedom, Flexibility, and Finances. I'm your co-host, Chris Angel, with Pete Weller, your host. Pete, how are you?
I am excited to be here, Chris. You?
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me on your show as your co-host.
Wonderful. It's one of those things that when you and I met in Plano and we talked about this a little bit, I got real excited about what this looked like. And, what's fun is we get into action faster and figure it out as we go.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing, man. So many people try to have it all perfectly planned out before they go, when in reality, your message has to get out in the world. Whether that's you, Pete, or you listening to this, like your message, you have to start developing what that is. And I know you've already gone way down that road, Pete. So I'm excited in our show here to pull out of you all the great stuff that you have created over the years. So today, this is episode 1. We're starting with the money map. And I'm curious to know, because I actually don't know, what is the money map?
Well, we came up with the money map and we called it that. And the reason why we called it that is because I needed to come up with a system to be able to show my wife where the money came from and where it went all the way through the budget. And as I drew this picture out, I realized that it was much more intricate on what we've developed than, just simply making a deposit and paying some bills, working off of a normal P&L. I wanted to be able to command every dollar and know if I was getting a return on investment from it.
So you started, it wasn't a communication tool for you originally.
It was. It was a way for me to be able to understand what my business needs were and what my personal needs were, and then to be able to communicate that effectively to my wife. And I'm not the money guy in the house. I'm the one that likes to spend. I sign up for every new widget. If it's shiny, I want it.
Yeah.
And what this allowed me to do is be able to say yes or no with some parameters that her and I set aside.
And you've gone out into the world and shared this with other people now. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've shared it with several families and several solopreneurs and entrepreneurs. And what we're noticing with them is they are beginning to have freedom because they're not having to think about their finances on every single day and stress and worry about, do I have enough to cover this? They've got enough to cover it, which frees them up to be able to have better relationships with people.
Got it. So in some part, it's a communication tool, but in some part, it's probably like a visual management tool for yourself, like a knowing where things are at. I think most people aren't always present to what's going on with their money. Most of us check to see if we're okay with money by logging into our bank account and being like, well, are we okay or are we not okay?
Right. And I think that, as that electronic banking accounts came out, that we actually got away from looking at our money in a paper checkbook and making money tangible. When I start carrying cash, money became tangible again.
Yeah.
So this made it so that money was real to the point where I felt the pain and the pleasure of what it was driving.
So can you kind of walk me through like a visual of, like, just with your words, walk me through, what does it kind of look like? Is it a spreadsheet? Is it how does it work?
It's, in its simplest form, it's an analog version. And I like to grab a white sheet of paper. I like to grab several different colors, pens or pencils. And what I do is, all of the streams of income, Robert Kiyosaki talks about that in his cash flow quadrant. You have to develop several streams of income. Yeah. So as we do that, we've got to have that money go somewhere. Yeah. So I want to see every dollar that's coming into my business and into the household. So we put that into a depository account on the money map, and we draw a circle.
And that circle is the depository account. That's where all the money goes.
That's where all the money goes.
Got it. Okay.
Now, what happens is after we develop this map, we actually can set up our bank accounts and our P&L and our QuickBooks to be able to match the money map. Yeah. So that the person that's the money person can look at the spreadsheet, look at all the numbers and say, does it match?
Right.
So then we look at all of our expenses and we write them down on a list, and then we categorize them. So in business, we've got our general operating expenses. Right. We've got, like you and I both travel frequently, so we've got a travel account. Yep. And then we've got meals and food, entertainment. I like to eat out. You know, I didn't get this figure by not eating. So getting out and entertaining people.
Right.
And then reserves, you know, so we have to set that up for reserve. Yet if we never consciously move money into any of these accounts and we're always drawing on our general operating account,
Yeah,
we'll never set our reserves up to be successful for the future.
I love that. So each of these are actual separate bank accounts?
Yeah, so it ends up being separate bank accounts.
Wow,
and then
awesome.
we work off of a percentage-based budget.
Yep.
And it takes about 3 to 6 months for that percentage-based budget to work itself out so that all the accounts, the money flows in and out properly.
Right.
Yet when we draw that money map, it ends up being very artistic.
Wow, look at that, 3 pages. Yeah.
Yeah, so you draw where that money comes in.
Yep.
And then you direct it through that map.
Got it.
So we look at it similar to when you go on an expedition. You know where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a map and a compass.
Right.
And what we want to do is we want to be able to set our destination. And our destination is to have the finances to be able to live the life that we want.
Right.
To be able to have the freedom to be able to make the decisions that we want. And the flexibility to do it on our timetable, not on somebody else's timetable.
Right. So the immediate question that pops up for me then in this is, I like the concept of it, but like, I don't know in any given month if I'm going to have enough money to put aside for the different things. Like most of the times, just the money comes in and all of that has to go to the operating expenses of my life. And I'm happy to like try to siphon some into reserves or into travel or into whatever. So what do those of us who, you know, don't have tons of extra lying over, what do we do?
Well, so let's look at that. Are there months where you have a better month than others?
Yeah.
So the way that we design this is it's like a bucket. So all of the money goes in the depository account, and then it goes into the operating account. When the operating account overflows, it flows into where? It flows into the next bucket. So yeah, we know that we've got to keep this bucket full.
Yeah.
And if it gets down, we're not going to move money to the other accounts. Yet when it's overflowing, we direct that money somewhere else. So it doesn't just get consumed on the next whiz bang thing.
Nice. Okay, got it. And so when does the percentage thing kick in? Like when the depository account is full and overflowing, then I take a certain percent of it then, or do I take a certain percent out of every check or what?
So what we want to look at is, so we look at our finances over the course of 12 months. So if you're brand new in business, it's really important to track your numbers.
Yeah.
If you've been doing this for a while, you should know your numbers. So we can look over the course of 12 months and know that you spent X amount of dollars on travel. If we take your gross income and we look at how much you spent on travel, there's a percentage there.
Got it.
So that way, every money that comes in, we know that we should be taking effectively that percentage and putting it over into that travel account. So we've got to take care of our operating account first with that bucket, and then we start working on the percentages.
Got it. Okay, good. All right, good. I had to chuckle a little bit because I think like, you know, assuming that we track our numbers is a big assumption. You know, like how many people have been in business for a long time and never tracked their numbers?
Well, that's where it starts. You know, if we really want to look at freedom and flexibility down the road, it starts with the finances and knowing your numbers.
Yeah.
How do you know when you make too much money, Chris?
It never feels that way because I'm always spending it.
Right? Yet we know that when we're making too much money, we don't have enough time with our family. So if we actually looked at the limitation and said, hey, when I make this much money, I'm going to have this much time with my family and design the end in mind. Then we start knowing when we're starting to break how much, if we're making too much money, which sounds counterproductive. Yet when we set standards around our finances, we also find that we start setting standards around our family, around our lifestyle, and around our time.
I think the most, maybe courageous is the word, the most courageous thing that people can start to do with money is start to be honest about where they are with their money today and just get some help, right? Because most of us have been on the treadmill of not, quote unquote, not enough money for a while. And we've read books and we've gone to classes and we're listening to podcasts about money. But what it takes to get to the other side is to actually have somebody to help us, right?
You know, interesting thing, I was in a conversation with a gal probably about an hour and a half ago, and we were talking about, you know, some of these books say, you know, dress to impress, dress for the job that you want, act like you want. What it doesn't say is, it doesn't say go spend the money like you're a millionaire before
Yeah.
you're the millionaire.
Yeah.
So if we start looking at statistics, what really is happening? The people that have the most amount of money and the most amount of finances actually live some of the simplest lives.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I
So
like that.
we dial it in. We know that there's two numbers that we want to focus on business, our bottom line and our top line revenue.
Mm-hmm.
So if we control the bottom line revenue with all of this stuff through the money map,
Yeah.
we know that when we increase the top line revenue, where it goes, and we start seeing our goals achieved.
Okay, just to unpack that a little bit, right? So bottom line revenue would be sort of your profit. It's what's left over. And you're saying if we can build a lifestyle around the smaller number, the what's left over, then when more money comes in on top line is gross revenue. When more money comes in on the top line and we're living off of a smaller number, then that's where we can start to push money into different buckets.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
good.
you and I talk, we see this on the internet frequently with Facebook and YouTube. Develop a seven-figure income, and I've got friends with seven-figure incomes that are making $60,000, $90,000, $120,000 after it's all said and done.
Yeah.
And they're working 70, 80 hours a week. I mean, I don't understand, why would you create seven figures of income,
Right,
if you're not going to enjoy most of that? It just doesn't make sense to me.
right. Yeah, it's interesting, that expense creep, you know, as money increases, finding things to spend money. I know it's a super temptation for me. I'm a good spender. I know I can spend money. As money comes in, I can find new things to spend money on. But I'm also good at, when I know what the boundaries are, to use your word, the boundaries, when I know what I'm shooting for, what the target is, I'm also pretty good at reeling myself in. And I think that's sometimes the missing piece for people, is they just haven't decided what is the boundary and what am I choosing to live inside of.
Yeah, and you know, it's what is the least amount of money that we can live on, yet still have the lifestyle that gives us the needs that we want. So one of my dreaded questions over the last 4 years in developing a new real estate business was, my wife would say, "Hey, how much are you going to transfer over this month?" You've got 4 closings. How much money are you going to transfer over? And I'm going, I don't know how much is coming out. I don't know, I need to grow this business.
Right.
Well, yeah, you need to take care of us too.
Yeah.
Right. So there's this polling. So when I defined what those were and looked at that bottom line dollar, and then I stopped spending a lot of time on how to decrease the cost because they're decreased.
Yeah.
So I just watch that creep and then focus on top line dollars. So when it comes in, the buckets are full. And which bucket is the second one after operating expenses? It's actually pay yourself.
Nice.
Most people, want to set up their business and all of this. The best thing that we can do is be paying ourselves so that it keeps that positive flow and cover our costs.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. Pete, here's the thing. I think about the conversation about money is there's a lot of places we could go. And I'm expecting in the show, we'll go a lot of places with the conversation of money. What I want to sort of invite people to, this is the kind of work that you actually do with people, right?
Yes. So we've spent a lot of time developing a system and a model to be able to break it down to a simple place where any entrepreneur at any level can implement this into their business and find freedom within the first 14 days. And we're actually seeing a return on investment of 3 to 4 times of just their time within 90 days and 6 months.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. So if people want to learn more about that process, how do they get a hold of you? How can they talk to you about that?
So I've got an online calendar that's set up. It's www.kindalikepete.com. And that's KINDA, likepete.com.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's kindalikepete.com is most people really enjoy having a great conversation with me. And then sooner or later we come around and we talk about something heavy. this is a heavy subject, Chris. Nobody really likes
Right.
talking about it.
Yeah.
We grew up not talking about it. So why not talk about it? Find the freedom in the conversation and empower yourself to do something different.
Is that like, I kind of like Pete, like I kind of like him sometimes, but sometimes I don't because we have hard conversations?
Yeah, it's, I feel that everybody has enough friends in the world.
Yeah.
And the last thing that you need from me is for me to be another friend. So you've got to invite somebody in your life that's willing to have the difficult conversations with you.
Yeah.
So what you find is that internal freedom to be able to move out and move forward. Yet a lot of times when you get off the phone with me, you're very frustrated because you now have work to do and you see the gaps in your life.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah, it's good actually. It's the place you've got to go if you want to turn the corners for sure. So
yeah, and you're not going to get out of the same level of thinking. You're not going to get out of where you're at with finances with the same level of thinking. You've got to get a new type of thinking to be able to get out of the hole.
That's
so
good.
This system, actually, I used it to dig out of a hole. Still digging out of the hole. Yet it's got clarity, and that hole is getting filled up.
Yep. I love the ROI too. So if people want to schedule a call with you and talk about money, kind of get to the other side, they can go to likePete.com and schedule time with you.
Correct.
Awesome. Pete, this is a good episode, man. Episode 1 of Freedom, Flexibility, and Finances. Thanks for your wisdom and your expertise. I'm looking forward to episode 2, and we'll see you then.
Absolutely, Chris. Thanks for the opportunity to have a conversation with you frequently.
Absolutely.